Hello, I hope you're having a great day. It is the 2nd of November here in Korea as we're winding down a nice chilly fall afternoon. This weekend kind of changed pace a little bit. You see, one of the things I like to do is go out and see the culture and really experience life. But some of the teachers think that going to the demilitarized zone or going on a 10-kilometer hike, well, they think that's a little bit too much of a thrill seeking opportunity. And they have rather passed on some of those excursions. And since I really enjoy hanging out with my fellow teachers, I opted to stay in town this weekend and hang out with them. So we went into Seoul in search of some new destinations. And we actually had a lot of fun. Our first stop was Seodaemun Prison. Now, it actually was a really interesting place to be, even though they don't really allow you to take any photographs. You can take them outside the building, but inside the exhibition hall and some other areas, you can't take any pictures. And it was really unfortunate because there's a lot of history. Seodaemun is 100 years old. It opened its doors on the 21st of October, 1908. So it really just passed its centennial. And it was built by the Japanese beginning in 1907 to house political prisoners and activists during the time that Japan controlled Korea. Now, this prison was used also by the Korean government up until 1987, but during the Japanese occupation, this prison was just filled with about 500 prisoners in rooms no bigger than my donji here. So, 10 feet by 10 feet, 3 meters by 3 meters, and up to 12 people in a room that size. Now, the solitary confinement rooms were long enough that you could lay down, but the ceilings, I could jump and barely touch the ceiling. So we're talking 3+ meters there. It was really interesting to see that. Because this was a place for Japanese to hold activists and prisoners, there was a lot of torture here. And in the exhibition hall, they really hit home that fact. They actually had a lot of mannequins dressed up showing the actual torture. And that was kind of eerie because the Japanese used cat o' nine tails to flog the prisoners. They routinely beat them just to a bloody pulp. They used the bamboo shoots underneath the fingernails. And in one scene, they actually had a soldering iron and were stabbing the guy with that. What was really eerie about it is that they were using mannequins and they were all motion sensitive and mechanical, so there was motion with it. But they also had this soundtrack of people just screaming in excruciating pain. And it was just really unsettling to walk through and hear that. And I wish I could have taken some pictures or video, but it just wasn't allowed in the area. One of the things that was really interesting is that they had a torture device called the stand-up coffin. And I was too big to get in it. But picture a wall closet, a locker, a school locker, but have it coffin shaped. And what they would do is stick the person in there and lock them in. And you really had no movement. You were pretty much bound, and that was it. And you were left in there for days. The prison grounds are now beautiful. I'm going to throw some pictures up in a second. And it's just a really stark contrast as to what atrocities were performed there and how beautiful it is today, especially in the autumn. As I said, it was used up until 1987 by the Korean government as a correctional facility, and now it is a reminder of Korea's proud history of their insurrection against their Japanese occupation. in the first part of the 20th century. So without further ado, I'm going to throw these pictures up and kind of go through them really quick. After, you'll see some pictures of the Han River and sunset where we took a little river cruise. So here we go. Now this is the main entrance of the prison, and as you can see, it's still pretty nice. This area is where they had actually sunken cells beneath the ground level here, and they're even smaller than the normal rooms. They're mainly for solitary. This is one of the solitary confinement rooms. As you can see, it's fairly deep back in there. This is where the executions were, and in the center of the photograph, and here you can actually see the memorial for those that lost their lives here. When the dead bodies were ready to be taken out, they were taken out through this corridor, and here's the back of the building. And as I said, you can see the lovely foliage here in the fall, and this is where the exercise ground was, as well as two buildings that have been torn down. And here we go with the Han River, approaching sunset. You can see Seoul in the distance there. Just absolutely beautiful way to spend an afternoon as the cool air comes in, and man, it was just great. They have full service on the ferry. It was just really nice to be able to see. Now this picture is actually Olympic Stadium from the 1988 Olympic Games, and of course a absolute beautiful sunset. So there you have the pictures from my afternoon out in Seoul. I hope you're having a great day and a great weekend. If your weekend is almost over, I hope it was fantastic and that this upcoming week flies by at the speed of sound. See you later.